Hello, good morning, or good evening whenever you are watching this. I hope you're doing well. My name is Catherine, and today we are talking about some Greek mythology retellings. If you've been around for a while, you might know that I am a big fan of retellings and reimaginings. Lately, my channel has become very romance-centric, which is great, and I love romance books, obviously. But I do kind of want to get back a little bit to my roots, which is, of course, fantasy and retellings. I've always loved Greek mythology retellings, from ones that are just super close to the original text and are written by classicists, that sort of thing, to ones that are a little bit more liberal with their reimaginings. And lately I've had a little bit of a resurgence into my Greek mythology era, specifically because I've been listening to Epic the Musical on repeat. It's a musical retelling of the Odyssey. It's being released in sagas, which is really cool. I've been subjecting everyone who walks into the store that I work at to listen to it, and I have gotten most of my coworkers addicted to the musical. I mentioned in my February TBR that I am planning on reading the Odyssey finally, because I haven't actually read the Odyssey, but this specific translation is done by Emily Wilson. She's the first woman to translate it into English. Specifically into English, there's been a couple women who've translated it into other languages, but this one is really cool because it's in iambic pentameter, so I'm very excited to read this. It got me thinking about how kind of popular Greek mythology retellings are, specifically stories that we know but told from a woman's perspective. So while there are a lot of retellings and reimaginings that I really love, today I am going to be focusing on books that are set in the time period of the original myths. So specifically I'm going to be looking at Odyssey and Iliad, which is more Bronze Age, but all of these books are told from the women's perspective in these stories, a point of view that is often overlooked, as we oftentimes get the stories about the heroes, who I believe most of them are garbage, but that's neither here nor there. I just personally think that I could fight Agamemnon and take him in a back alley fight. Sure, he's a warrior and a king, but I just have rage. So anyway, let's talk about these books. I've read some of them are on my TBR. I've just heard really amazing things. Let's go. Of course, first and foremost is Cersei by Madeline Miller. I think this is probably one of the more popular retellings that you hear a lot of people talk about. This is, of course, the story of Cersei. She, in the Odyssey, is this witch goddess who turns men into pigs, as she should. This book talks about her life on her island, and kind of her relationship with Odysseus, which is what we hear about in the Odyssey, but also just her life in general. It's just beautifully written. I think there's really beautiful prose in it. I love the way this book is written because you read it and it reads like you're reading an actual memoir, because there's times where I'm this was a real person. This is a real person, and she is telling her story. A book that I recently finished after putting it off for quite some time was Daughters of Sparta by Claire Haywood. This book specifically talks about Helen and Clytemnestra, Helen being, of course, Helen of Sparta, Helen of Troy, that Helen, and Clytemnestra, who is Helen's sister and was married off to King Agamemnon, who again, I would like to fight. This talks about these just really incredible women who were used as pawns by the men in their lives, whether from their father, from their husbands, from the gods themselves. How oftentimes they were left in the dark about things like their own bodies, their own lives, who they are, whose daughters they are, things like that. I just think Claire Haywood has, again, just a really incredible way of writing some really beautiful prose in this story. I, in fact, just picked up her next book, which comes out on February 27th. This is the Shadow of Perseus. This is about three women in Perseus's life. We have Danae, Andromeda, and Medusa. I just got started in this one, but again, the writing in it is just so beautiful. And it does talk about the women in their relationship to a man. However, very much covers how like overlooked they are, how just wronged they are, and I really love that. The next author is Jennifer Saint. I've read one of her books, but she has a couple of books out covering Greek mythology and women in Greek mythology. So I've read Ariadne. This, of course, talks about Ariadne. This one again covers kind of the way that in a lot of these mythos and a lot of like history, women suffer because of the actions of men, because of what men do. People are like, haha, we're gonna punish this woman in your life to make you hurt. Ariadne is, of course, the daughter of King Minos and sister to Phaedra, as well as the Minotaur. She gets seduced away by Theseus, who is another man who I would gladly fight in a back alley. He makes an appearance in Daughters of Sparta as well. And I just, why are men so terrible? She is abandoned by Theseus on this island, and she has to make her own way in life. Again, really beautiful. It had me like crying at the end because it is very sad. If you do know anything about her original myth, if you don't, go into this blind because I think you would be surprised. The other books that Jennifer Saint has is Elektra. This one also follows three women. Follows Clytemnestra, who there is a lot of controversy about. Is she a good person? Is she a bad person? Is she just a victim of circumstance? I'll let you guess what my opinion is. Her daughter, Elektra, who is seeing, of course, the like bloodshed and violence during the Battle of Troy, and Cassandra, who is a priestess who is like kind of cursed by Apollo. She can see the future of Troy, and feels powerless to stop anything that's going to happen. This one's similar to Ariadne. It talks a lot about like destiny and fate versus like free will. Haven't read this one yet, but I am very excited to because I loved Ariadne, and I'm sure I'm going to love this one as well. The third book that Jennifer Saint has coming out, it's going to be coming out in the UK. There's like two different dates. In the UK, it's coming out April 13th. In the US, it's coming out May 9th. And this is Atalanta. Atalanta is a huntress of Artemis who we love. She's also the only woman who is part of the Argonauts, who they are on the search for the Golden Fleece. I cannot wait to read this one. Cover is gorgeous. The covers of all these books are just stunning. That's not the reason why I'm reading them, but like kind of. Another very prolific writer in these like Greek mythology retellings is Natalie Haynes. The first one being 1,000 Ships. This one talks about a lot of different women and their role in Greek mythology, so it doesn't really stick to one particular story. It does kind of jump around a little bit, is a little bit more broad. She most recently came out with another book, like I think this month, beginning of this month, called Stone Blind, and this is of course about Medusa, her relationship to Perseus. Another man I would just gladly fight. Like, I don't know. I think I could take all of them. Will that be like my downfall, thinking I can, just fight all of these well-trained warriors? Maybe. But I would gladly go down doing it. Coming out on March 7th is another book about Clytemnestra called Clytemnestra. This is by Costanza Casali, and it once again is telling kind of Clytemnestra's story. Again, a lot of like controversy around Clytemnestra as a person. She is like not very well liked, but it talks kind of about the like choices that she has had to make. And again, covers stunning. Cannot wait to read it. I think it's just going to be another really interesting take on Clytemnestra's story. Then we have Phaedra. This is by Laura Stepperson. I've heard kind of mixed things about this book, although there was one review that was like, ugh, a feminist retelling can't just be about hating the men in the story and calling them trash. And I'm like, but like, hear me out. What if they are trash? You know what I mean? Especially in poor Phaedra's story. Phaedra is the sister of Ariadne. She is daughter of King Minos. She's forced to marry Theseus. garbage. And then she is, of course, assaulted by Hippolytus. But this story is her taking back her narrative. I, again, haven't read this one yet, but it is high up on my list. Going back specifically to the Odyssey, we have Ithaca by Claire North. This one tells the story of Penelope, who is Odysseus's wife. She is left to care for the island of Ithaca while Odysseus is gone for a very long time. And as we know, gets up to a lot. Penelope is pursued by a lot of suitors who want to take Odysseus's throne because it is believed that Odysseus is dead. He's been gone for like 17 years. For a war that he kind of is not the reason for, but he is a contributing factor. So yeah, this tells Penelope's story and kind of the choices that she has to make in her husband's absence, and the fact that like she was like 17 when she married Odysseus, and then she's like left alone to take care of this entire island. Poor girl. Finally is a series of books that is a little bit out of the time period of the Odyssey and the Iliad. The first one is The Wolf Den. Book 2 is The House of Golden Doors. I don't have a copy of The Wolf Den. I do have a copy of this though. This is by Elodie Harper, and it is a trilogy following a girl who is forced to work in the brothels of Pompeii. Pompeii is quite well known for its brothels, and this one is specifically called The Wolf Den, and kind of follows her life in Pompeii, of course, the eruption of Vesuvius. There's going to be a third book coming out called Temple of Fortuna. I believe all the books are leading up to the eruption of Vesuvius, so this is in 79, if I am remembering my history correctly. So definitely a lot more modern. I mean, not really. It takes place in like 79 AD, which is more modern than the Odyssey, which takes place in like 1200 BCE, if I'm remembering correctly. If I'm remembering, Bronze Age, right? I could be totally wrong and just making this up, but I'm pretty sure if I remember my history classes correctly, that's what this is. If you are looking to get into these like kind of feminist retellings of Greek mythology, those are all really good as starting points. I am definitely going to be making my way down the list of those books that I haven't read yet, that I'm very excited for. If there's any books along these lines that you would recommend, definitely let me know down below because I want to read them all. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on that bell icon so you get notified every single time I post. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, bye!